Hey everybody, welcome back to Dreamloop DevCast. Tommi just supplied us with some news from the Call of Duty front. And
would I say Intel?
Yes, Intel, definitely.
Yes.
And what they're saying is that the next Call of Duty game would not have a single-player campaign at all, but instead a Battle Royale sort of section.
This is a Polygon article that says that Black Ops IV would be dumping the traditional single-player campaign and would be emphasizing multiplayer zombies and probably a Battle Royale mode. And this goes to say that, like in this article, they say that developers who want to stay anonymous for obvious reasons are saying that the single player hasn't been completed yet, and that it's evident that it will not be completed until the game launches, so they're going to drop it and emphasize all the everything they have on the multiplayer modes. So it seems like it started as a very traditional Call of Duty with single player and multiplayer and everything in between, but it seems like they're now turning it into a multiplayer only, and this sort of comes with the I'm not sure if it's been announced, but it's at least been rumored, and there's been some leaks that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remaster would be coming, and it would be lacking a multiplayer component completely. So it would be the single player campaign of this year would be called Modern Warfare 2, and the multiplayer would be Black Ops 4. And I don't know what to think of this.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to be working is from the article actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reading the Reddit post. I don't necessarily read these articles, but at least somebody said that in there. Also, I think this is a good point to mention that Kimmo isn't here this week, because we didn't do that at all. We just went directly.
Or maybe
to
he's here, but he's just completely silent.
Yeah.
He's in stealth.
He's here in spirit. Yeah, he's super stealthy because I don't even see him on Discord, but it's still possible. Weirder things have happened.
So basically we're getting a division of Call of Duty being divided into a single-player remaster and multiplayer wholly new game.
I mean, I'm not sure even if they themselves know that well what they're doing at this point, because I think it's pretty. I mean, of course, I don't follow that segment of the market that closely, but from what I know, they've been really losing audience, and it would make sense they're really losing audience to, for example, Battle Royale games. Fortnite, and PUBG to an extent, stuff like that. So, and in general, I think that series has been kind of going downhill for a while now. So now they're just kind of, I don't know what they're doing, because from what I understand, that I think Modern Warfare 2 is actually the only Call of Duty I've ever even played. I think I played on a free weekend, stuff like that, and I think that seems to be that point when the series, so to speak, peaked for a lot of people. And then now they do something like this. I think Modern Warfare 2 had that like controversial, in parentheses, or in quotation marks, single player mission where you shoot people at an airport or something, right?
Yeah, Russian.
Yeah, so maybe they are like, I think they might be trying to drum that up. So they're going like, we have Battle Royale now, and look at this controversial mission. Like they are really trying to get these talking points. And trying to revitalize the whole thing that way. It's probably what they're trying to do.
Or one thing that came to my mind just now is that people have been saying that there's a big part of the Call of Duty crowd is that they buy the game just for the single player, and when they're done with it, they're not done with it. They don't go to the multiplayer at all. And then there's the other crowd that buys it for the multiplayer. They don't even touch the single player. So this way, I guess this could be also like a test to see if they can get people to buy a single player only Call of Duty and then a multiplayer only Call of Duty.
Yeah, I think it might be actually, now that you mentioned that, it might have something to do with that, because I think they probably have a fuck ton of metrics, and I think if you think about it, probably a lot of the people who buy Call of Duty for single player are gonna be nostalgic for Modern Warfare 2, and they're gonna be buying it. So it's just easier than to, have to put the effort in to remake a completely new story. Just do that. You're probably not going to lose that much money. And then you can capitalize on the multiplayer experience. Like really focus on that, on the game that focuses on that. And, and do the whole Battle Royale thing, stuff like that. So from that point of view, it might be kind of smart move, even if quite cynical.
It's interesting that the Call of Duty franchise, I guess, peaked at Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3 was already a bit of a downer for many. And since then, they've gone to the future, they've gone to space, and now they've gone back to World War II, and no one really has liked any of those so far. They just want their modern military shooter back.
That, and I think it's also that, it was done, and it was possibly, so to speak, a genre that, and like a subgenre within a genre, that was perfected. And you cannot really go anywhere from there. Like, you can only do remakes at that point, and then even that is not going to work forever. Like, people have already played the, so to speak, perfect game, so what do?
And this is what I, now, again, just came to my mind, is that if they would make a Modern Warfare 2, 3, or even 1 style multiplayer-only game that would take the business model of, for example, Rainbow Six Siege, which is like seasonal. Like, you would have that one game and then just bring new content every year, just new season passes, and people would be buying it and playing it, and everyone would be happy.
But I don't think they can do that with Call of Duty because it's such an old, I think the biggest problem is that it's such an old series. So, retail stores are probably expecting to get discs. And, it's built around the whole, every year or whatever, there's going to be a game, and it's going to be in supermarket, and it's going to be everywhere. People are going to be buying it, and then probably people are going to be, selling it when they're done with it, reselling it, stuff. Like, it has this whole, ecosystem. So you can't really, you would just have to do a new IP pretty much, because a lot of Call of Duty is that nostalgia.
But do you think that people are buying the new game for the sake of buying the new game every year, or do they buy it because they know that everyone else will be buying it and they will be left playing the previous game with a smaller crowd? I
mean, I think it's a little bit of both, but I think the second part, of course, has a really... I mean, it's the same thing as with consoles, where it seems a lot of these purchase decisions are driven by, all my friends are buying it, or whatever, all my friends are going to be there, which is actually would be a very interesting topic in itself, this whole thing, because it's not going to be like a collective decision, most likely, in your circle of friends. It's going to be one trailblazer guy who decides... and who has the sway or whatever, to make everybody else be like, oh yeah, I want that too. And then you go to whatever thing it is, and it expands from there, and then the entire circle of friends is there. And those are the people, I guess, you wanna target.
With those seasonal new packages, I guess they could retain the player base and just sell the basically some new features every year to the players, but
I guess
still
the problem
keep the ones playing.
Yeah, but I think the problem is then that it's Call of Duty that is too different, so it's not Call of Duty anymore, and you're just gonna get a massive backlash, because people who want Call of Duty, they want it because they have such good memories of it, they want that exact experience that may or may not be possible. So at that point, maybe what happens is you just get beat up by CSGO and, Rainbow Six Siege and stuff like that, games that don't have that burden, so to speak. I don't know.
But do you think the Modern Warfare 2 might have been at the right place at the right time? It was hailed as a very, very good single player campaign, and of course there had been a Modern Warfare 1, and then I don't know the chronology of the series, but there have been some Call of Duty games before that, I think. Tommi can probably verify this, but anyway, and do you think it, in addition to being a successful, well-made game, do you think it also came out at the right time?
Yeah, I would definitely think so. I mean, there's always so many factors to it, and of course, there's a fuck ton of money pumped into that series. you know. And there was a time when it was one of the, and I think in some parts of the consumer base or whatever, it still is one of those games where, you know, people never buy anything other than, you know, Call of Duty and Madden, and, you know, maybe that's it, you know. And those are the two games you basically buy yearly. And that's actually, at least in America, from what I understand, it's a really big audience. So, and, you know, Halo was similar, I think, also, you know, for Xbox players especially. Well, I mean, that's the only platform where it's available, and you know that, you know, that super loyal, massive fan base, and you know, it's been having similar problems where it kind of like went downhill from, as I understand, like Halo 3 or whatever. But I think that's the same thing that it just peaked. Like, you just couldn't do that same experience any better. It would be a different experience, you know. And then, like, it just, you know, went downhill. And then, of course, Bungie left from under Microsoft's yoke or whatever, and then they made Destiny and all that stuff.
But actually, that it peaked and you couldn't perfect it again. It kind of goes back to my point before, that if you could take that peaked experience, but just bring more content into it and keep it rolling for multiple years.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that it peak, you know, because it's created to be like, you know, a game that you buy on disc and you play for a certain amount of time, and a new one comes out. Like, it doesn't have all the mechanics to make it sustainable like that, I think. Or maybe it would if it was like a blank slate. But no, you know, this is completely, I'm just pulling this out of my ass. But it somehow just feels like that you would get like massive backlash from the audience, because they don't want to. Because, you know, how do you do it? I mean, yeah, you could do it like with content passes and stuff, but it's just, I think the problem is that game worked for that very specific window of time, and then after that, you know, it's been done. Yeah. And you can't just do it forever anymore. Like, I think really there's a reason why, for example, Counter-Strike just keeps on going, because it's such the way they designed it. They designed a really good game. Like, it's, you know, it's game first and an experience second, so to speak. Whereas with Call of Duty, I think it always has had this like action movie type of thing going on, where ultimately it will hurt its longevity after a point. What I remember from Call of Duty was, when I played during that free weekend at one LAN party, was basically just time to kill is like essentially 0 seconds, and you just run around to maps, like there's just like loops that intersect. Yeah. And basically, if you know, get to somebody's back, you just shoot at them or flank somebody, whatever. And then, you know, one guy just gets 10 billion kills, and then they get like a helicopter drone or something like that, and they just kill everybody. And it just felt very like single player while being multiplayer. Like, you didn't really need to give a single fuck about what other people were doing. You were just running around in your own loops and shooting people.
Yep, that's basically Call of Duty, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, you can't, that will not work forever, you know, because at some point you will just, some people it will, but at some point you will just realize that there is no point to this. I'm just running around. I'm not really even interacting with these people, especially now when there are so many more interactive games on the market. Yeah. And, you know, in general, shit's been moving towards the team-based direction with Overwatch and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll see what happens now that the new one comes out with the Battle Royale thing, because of course Battle Royale is like the hottest shit imaginable at this point. At least that's how it seems to me. Like, it looks like the most played games all over right now are these Battle Royale types with Fortnite and PUBG. And
Fortnite, I guess, is pretty much winning that war at this point, from what I understand. It's really capturing that, especially now that it's out on mobile too, and it's free to play. Like, that's the thing, it's free to play. So it has the young audience by the balls, basically.
Yeah.
We'll see. Exactly. But also on, like, going back to what you said, Ville, about the game like peaking once with its formula. I'm really excited to see what Bethesda has to say on E3, because like I put in our Slack, they might be actually revealing Doom 2 Hell on Earth.
I guess they've been teasing.
Yeah, some slight teasing has been done to that direction, and what I would like to see is basically more of the same. But, you know, of course, I'm secretly also expecting them to add more weapons and more what are those rune tests? What the hell are they called?
The
like
trials
you have to
or
call
something.
challenges.
Challenges,
Rune trials or something.
Rune trials, yeah.
But I have to like correct my previous statement. So I don't think single player games necessarily peak in the same way, because in single player game you can always, it's up to the developers to create interesting stuff, like interesting adversary stuff like that. Multiplayer games peak because people will figure them out,
So you were talking about the multiplayer.
Yeah, I was more talking about the multiplayer side, and for example, why they may have not included the multiplayer with the Modern Warfare 2 remake, because people have it's been figured out, and it's very like, as said, very very whatever, like simplified. You just run around and you shoot at people and then you die. Like it doesn't really have that much. I mean, it will, of course. I'm sure there's gonna be, like, if I were to talk to a Call of Duty pro, they would go into great depths about all the tricks you can pull and stuff like that. But ultimately, there isn't that much, like, I like to talk about these interaction vectors. You don't have that many interactions. You don't have that many decisions, tactical decisions that you can make. Really, you do have them, but they're limited, and you can figure it out. And it becomes just repetitive. But in single player, it's not the same problem, because you can just have a completely different type of an enemy or whatever. And I mean, this wouldn't be a problem in non-symmetric multiplayer games either, which is kinda what we're seeing now in a way, because we're seeing these class-based games where they can introduce new classes and that keeps it fresh. But in Call of Duty, it's pretty much just, from what I understand, you just get weapons. Pretty much, and they cannot be that much more different when it's a modern military setting. It's just gonna be different recoil patterns and different fire rates and different whatever, and that's it. Like, you can't just introduce some completely crazy character that does something completely new, which is kinda what, for example, Overwatch does a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what Quake Champions also does now.
Yeah.
Compared to old Quakes, even though I think from what I've played. I think it's in early access still. It's pretty good. It feels a lot like the Quake 3, and in a good way. And even though the different characters have distinctly different abilities and also different amounts of health and armor, they still feel really good to play. And it doesn't seem like any of the characters are too overpowered, because they're still. You have to practice a lot to become somewhat competent, and to be able to win duels, and only after that the character differences really start to make a difference.
And I think that's the thing, because it's been designed from ground up to allow for that. But if you don't design the game initially around that there's different characters, and that kind of like alter the rules of the game, so to speak. Like, you don't really get that in a modern military shooter. Like, you don't really get weapons, for example. They don't really that much alter the rules of the game. It's just every weapon you shoot and hopefully hit the dude, and hopefully in the head, and then hopefully they die. And it doesn't really, like, what if they were to introduce, I don't know, like a character that can shoot ricocheting bullets or something. Like, that's an option. Like, for example, your bullets deal less damage, but you can ricochet them around corners, and then I guess they have the perk system, so maybe they could have something like that. But it's just not like expandable enough. It's this, because it's not built to be something where you can add a modular piece to it and still keep it balanced. So it would be really hard to maintain in that sense.
Yeah. And actually, now that we're talking about a Black Ops game, it will be developed by Treyarch, which actually have been the most crazy guys with the Call of Duty series, if you can say that. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would try to pull off. They try to pull out and be done with the Call of Duty. Pull off a Call of Duty game with this new type of multiplayer, I guess, suite, and they would be. Because, I mean, if they're going to go Battle Royale, they want to keep that going as long as possible.
Yeah. And I really think they could...
Now try to make this the go-to Call of Duty online experience for years to come.
And if they expand the perk system to more like class-like direction, stuff like that, And then Black Ops has like futuristic stuff in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they can just add like augmentations or whatever, and just keep shuffling it up that way, like implants that change how you play, and they can really Titanfall it up, so to speak. Which, by the way, would be really cool if they can pull that off, like a battle royale game where they focus on parkour and mobility and stuff like it would be really nice to see a battle royale game with verticality. That is not just you building up to the sky, pretty much. Because PUBG basically has, from what I've seen, almost none. You don't really, you're like, it's very old school in regards to how you move. I think they now added the ability to vault over fences and like quickly climb, but it's still very like you're on the ground and you can jump a little bit and that's it. It would be really cool to see something where you can have like rocket boosted jumps and like climbing up walls and wall running and stuff like that, and do a like much faster paced thing. Where like a round of 50 or 100 people takes like maybe half of what it takes in PUBG or Fortnite or whatever. That could be really cool.
Yeah, and in Black Ops 3, I think in the single player and co-op campaign, you were actually basically a sci-fi wizard. It was just like spawning swarms of small like drones that would just eat up enemies or something like this. It was really, really strange and really like non-Call of Duty-esque.
Yeah, because you kind of have to, evolve. You can't just do that.
And I'm really the most fun I've had with Call of Duty games, I think, have been the Treyarch games. And that's why I mean I haven't been playing Call of Duties in many years, but it's always fun to see what Treyarch comes up with in the Call of Duty formula.
Yeah, there's definitely potential there. The whole Modern Warfare thing is a little bit like, that's kind of lame. But honestly, I'm not like, I think that at this point there cannot be enough companies making battle royale games, because it's the genre now. And the only way to push it forward is competition, and innovation. Luckily, Epic have seemingly are quite like, bold with Fortnite, so to speak. But still, like, it's always good to have different angles that push the genre. Because I don't think we necessarily, like, I think Fortnite is gonna be here to stay, so to speak. But there always needs to be two, pretty much. Like, League of Legends and Dota, for example. And
rule of two.
Yeah, pretty much rule of two. And I think Fortnite is sort of probably gonna be the League of Legends of the Battle Royale genre. But we don't have the Dota yet. I don't think PUBG is it, because PUBG is the Heroes of Neverth or whatever, or the original Dota mode or whatever. Like
successful failure.
Yeah, in a way. Like, I don't think Heroes of Neverth even you would like. I mean, it's still played by a ton of people, I think. Like, it's not, it's just not nowhere near the two big guys' numbers, And it was first in the scene, and I think they did screw up at certain points, stuff like that. But like maybe PUBG doesn't do as badly as they, if you view it now or whatever. But I don't think PUBG is gonna be the Dota of that genre. They need like somebody else is probably gonna do that. It could be, but I think because they do seemingly have the dude who invented or did like 10 billion mods with that premise and stuff like that on board there. So they kind of have the passion there that Dota also has in Icefrog, stuff like that. But I don't think their structure and how the game works, and like, I think it just came out too early in a way. Of course it had to, because it had to come out to kind of kickstart the genre. Really bad still. Like, it needed more time to be polished. And now it's kind of like...
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No. It's just that's pretty much it. Like, I think it's just
okay. Because I was thinking like you said, it came out too early. Like the how would you say it? The core that came out does not support all the additions that it would need to have to keep on going.
And then people are used to the jank, so to speak. Like, that's the problem when you make like a hardcore competitive game, is that people learn to play around all the bullshit. And then if you remove the bullshit, then the pro players, your hardcore audience, they get upset. Like, why did you remove this thing? Like, we're talking about Quake earlier, and Quake leads to Tribes, kinda. And I think Tribes is, for example, an example, Tribes Ascent, where they screwed it up by trying to alter things too much and remove all this, like, skill-based, like, crazy bunny hoppy, whatever movement text and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Like you just can't do that, and that just will happen if you make a junky game, and then but then that makes it less appealing to mass audience usually. And optimal would be if you have like that depth that's actually designed to be there, rather than just because people will find depth in your game as long as it's wide enough, so to speak, and it's multiplayer. Because when there's people fighting other people or whatever, like people playing against other people, you will always come up with these meta games and mind games and all this stuff. There's always going to be that, but it just doesn't have the right tools to capitalize on that properly, I don't think.
Yeah.
What happened to like, if I may quickly,
sure.
what happened to H1Z1?
It's still going.
It's still going, but it's the isn't that SOE or whatever? Is it?
What do you mean?
The company that makes.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the one with Sony background.
Yeah. It's Sony Online, but they're not called that anymore because they just keep jumping from game to game and just screwing things up. Mm-hmm. They're the same guys who are doing PlanetSide 2, I think.
And tried to do No. What was that?
They did EverQuest.
EverQuest.
Yeah, 1 and 2 and a bunch of others.
It reached that on Steam that they're called Daybreak Game Company.
Oh yeah, they're Daybreak now. Yeah, they've got Daybreak now.
Yeah. And there's also high volume of negative reviews detected.
Yeah.
I don't know why, like, and what's.
I think they had the problem, the same problem kind of, where they came out too early, and they're just completely stuck with they basically had to rewrite the whole engine, and they just, like, from what little I've heard of it, they keep adding, like, why do they keep adding these skins that I buy with money and not fixing this and this and this? It's that problem. Mm-hmm. Where the real reason is not necessarily greed, it's just that those things might not be fixable without rewriting the whole thing, and they have a certain amount of employees that they have to pay salary to, so they just have to do something that makes money. So yeah.
They tried to make the EverQuest next, but then they failed at that, and that was it.
Oh, yeah, they
Do you remember that?
Yeah, they tried that too.
It was supposed to be like a Minecraft MMO thing, and it never happened.
They really like doing this, like, really big MMO games. Like PlanetSide is also really big. For the record, I don't think I mentioned it in the cast. I absolutely adore PlanetSide 2, but it has a lot of problems. But yeah.
Going back to Fortnite, as we were talking about it, I just noticed that they have brought up a new patch which takes out the guided missile.
Oh, they had a guided missile. I didn't even know. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's the thing that I've been seeing in YouTube feeds for the past few weeks, I think.
Oh, did people use it to, like, ride the guided missile or something? Yeah.
And like it seemed very OP in every way. So now they're just we took it off. And I guess in a good and bad way, the fact that you can have a weapon like that in Fortnite sort of boosts its appeal. Yeah,
that's exactly the thing. That's why, like, I mean, that kind of ties in with the whole thing we were talking about today. Is, they haven't restricted their design space too much. So they can do crazy Halloween events with pumpkin launchers, and they can do crazy, stupidly slow-moving homing rockets that you can ride and stuff like that. They can be crazy with it because it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mentioned all that stuff, I just made the connection in my mind. Fortnite is the new Worms. Like, think about it. Think about the aesthetics of everything. Just like you said, Ville, they have the ability and they have the capacity to, like, have all these imaginative, really crazy weapons and crazy things, and it's also it's really bright and cartoony.
I don't think it's there yet, but I think it has the potential. Like, because Worms has always been, like, crazy quirky. Like, the original Worms wasn't that crazy, arguably, but ever since Worms 2, it's been completely nuts with all the stupid stuff that you can. Even Worms 1 had the sheep and stuff like that, so it's always been silly. But yeah, it would be really fun to see, like, a sheep in Fortnite, or something like that, like a farting grandma that explodes.
Llamas, so.
Yeah, that's true. But they are not really weapons, are they?
No, I think there's some sort of loot boxes.
Yeah, they're like pinata that you beat, and then it talks to you.
Of course.
That's what I saw when the game first came out, because I was interested in it because it was advertised to me as like Minecraft/Terraria meets Borderlands. It's like, well, that sounds like my jam. And I watched some streams and it was just people opening llamas, and they were just talking and spawning in different colors and just guns coming out. And I was like, well, this has nothing to do with any of the games that I was kind of like advertised or that were mentioned to me as resembling this game. The core gameplay, that applies to, but I don't like that type of monetization. So, but that's not that big of a problem in the Battle Royale, from what I understand.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Have they actually been patching up and kept up with the development of the actual game and not just with the Battle Royale?
Yeah, from what I understand, yeah, they do event stuff like that, and I think it's supposed to. I don't think it's yet, but it's supposed to go free to play on that side too. And I think that's going to get a bunch of people in there. And I think they have insane potential right now because, as we mentioned earlier, they have the younger audience by the balls now. And then they open the floodgates to the Minecraft section, so to speak. I mean, arguably you can already do that in the Battle Royale mode, but you don't have that much time. But if you then add the PvE side of things and really let people build and stuff like that, and you get the whole sky's the limit, because you get the Minecraft audience, you can possibly get the Ark audience, stuff like that. Like it quite ticks all the boxes for younger players.
I'm interested about the actual not the Battle Royale but the PvE side. I haven't played that yet since it's not free to play, and I guess it's not like finished yet, you would say. Like it's weird for me that you have to pay for an early access to a free to play game.
Yeah, it's quite. But yeah, I said I'm interested in it too. I just don't like the loot boxes side of it. And I don't like from what I saw, it seemed to be very much like the Borderlands problem of you get a weapon and then it's cool and then you level up and it sucks, combined with that everything comes out from loot boxes. So it's even worse. And there's like RNG on top of RNG and stuff like that. But that was like on launch. And I do know that they have been doing things to it at least. So maybe it's better now. And I really like the idea. There's some clunkiness to it. In that, for example, from what I understand, like you don't really upgrade your weapons. You upgrade your blueprints that then allow you to build those weapons during a map. It's something like that. So it's a little bit of a weird system, but.
Oh, by the way, just scrolling through Reddit, and Fortnite subreddit has 151,000 subscribers. Fortnite Battle Royale subreddit has 500,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So I guess that talks volumes about the.
I think that's even still like, that's better for the actual Fortnite, so to speak, than the real numbers are, because the difference is crazy. Because I mean, as said, it's free to play. It's the hip genre. It's really well done. It has a nice aesthetic. It has a nice wide design space where they can do crazy shit in. It's very like popular culture aware in a sense, or at least like conducive to it, so people can make funny videos and little clips and stuff like that, and it just works. And then of course a lot of popular streamers have what tends to happen is when a game becomes big, streamers kind of like emerge, or YouTubers, whatever, and they kind of like build off of each other. And we're seeing like maybe the biggest peak of that ever with Fortnite now, with some people like the whole ninja thing, streaming with Drake, stuff like that. Like it's quite unprecedented. In that like scale. It has happened before with basically whenever there's like a new hot game, there's gonna be a couple of streamers that use that too. And use is the wrong word. Like these are usually people who have been like working their balls off, basically.
Yeah.
Working their asses off, and they just happen to be at the right place, the right time, and all their hard work pays off, and then they get to the front page. And
it's
then
also like,
yeah.
I'm actually fairly interested whether or not I would actually like the game, Fortnite, because from what I from what I've seen, it's not really a game for me. But I'm always interested in broadening horizons and not getting too stuck on old favorites, even though I know I'm really prone to that. So, like, yeah, and also to you listening to the podcast, if you've been following Dreamloop stuff, you might have noticed that Joni, our CEO, is streaming, and he has been playing Fortnite quite a bit, and we've been watching his streams for a little bit here, and yeah, I mean, it's not. It looks like it's really, really not a game for me. But you know, it's like on the far end of the spectrum for myself personally. I'm a single player gamer mostly, but for that reason, in fact, it feels like maybe I should try it because it's so far off from my personal preferences that maybe I would like. Maybe I wouldn't get addicted to it or anything. Maybe I wouldn't play it for very long, but maybe I'd learn something. It would be still quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat really. I mean, I've watched more of it, but I still think it could be something that could be fun to try because of how different of a take to a like PvP multiplayer game it is. Like I think that's kind of like the stealth big thing about battle royale games is the kind of like the just jump in and get a match with 50 or 100 people, and if you die, you get a new match immediately, and just like that's something that like it's not mentioned, I don't think, that much in regards to them. Like, I think that's a really big part of it, like, because that means, for example, you don't have to. No, you can approach it just like I'm gonna do some stupid shit this time around. Like I'm just gonna build a toilet house and just sit there or whatever, I'm only gonna be using a pistol this round, or I'm gonna be playing loud music over proximity chat. Actually, I'm not sure if Fortnite has proximity chat, but if it does, stuff like that, like it has potential for that. Just messing around and not getting like super salty and toxic and competitive. Because I think there's a lot of fun to be had within the first 50 people to get eliminated. Like first half. Like I think it's a completely different game there than it is when you approach top 10 or whatever, where it gets really salty and sweaty.
Is it being played like professionally or something? Like competitively?
I think PUBG had like some esports stuff going on. I don't think Fortnite does, but I might be wrong. I think my cousin who does like betting and stuff, he mentioned that it is possible to bet on, I think it was PUBG. So there's some stuff down there, but of course it's not very conducive to that. But then again, I guess Hearthstone is an esport, so what the fuck do I know at this point? Like, it just doesn't seem to. As long as there's an audience, it doesn't really matter how much sense it makes for it to be a esport.
I tried Fortnite Battle Royale for 4 to 5 games, I think, and it just wasn't my jam. I guess it was a bit too hectic for my taste, and the whole building aspect just seemed off for me. Didn't make any sense. Which is why I think it would be nice to first play the PvE and then try it again.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is, and that in a way is how the thing where they're a little bit self-sabotaging, is that because the kind of like the mode that could be a tutorial for the building is not free to play. I assume, is there like some sort of tutorial even if you only play the online, or is it just immediately into a game and get fucked?
No, at least I didn't notice any tutorial.
Yeah,
it was just like jump in and get fucked.
So that's, I think, is the one thing that if the PvE was free now, then you could go there first and kind of like learn the mechanics and learn how to build things and stuff like that. That would be a really cool thing, and it would be absolutely amazing if what they did is they added like, and maybe they've already done this, I haven't followed it that much, but if they added like special zombies that force you to play in a way you would in an online game. Like for example, they start spamming rockets or whatever, you just have to quickly build walls in front of them, or you have to do the little like bunkery thing where you do 4 walls around yourself, but then you hop up and build stairs under yourself to have like a vantage point, stuff like that. Like if they kind of like added that so that the single player portion or whatever PvE portion teaches you how to comfortably do all the shit that's required pretty much to be competitive in the PvP mode.
Yeah, because that was the biggest thing. Like I was getting every time each and every time I got killed because someone else was better at building than I was.
And it's very much that, and then it like seems that it could be quite frustrating at times because you just keep shooting and the dude just keeps putting walls up, and then you run out of ammo, and then somebody flanks you or whatever, and you're dead.
Yeah.
And it feels sometimes that the flow is quite weird, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because it's very much like if I try to fight, I get outbuilt and I get fucked and I run out of resources and I probably get flanked anyway. And that is I think the weird thing about that genre is that it used to be back in the day that like camping was frowned upon, you know. Like, or you know, it was almost a meme, like fucking campers, snipers, blah blah blah. But now, like in those battle royale games, I mean, I don't really know them that well. But to me, it seems that if you happen to be in the right spot, camping is the optimal way to play.
Yeah.
And just avoiding fighting, just hiding. I mean, the problem, of course, is that then you don't get gear. But the thing is, you can get lucky with the gear still. And I mean, just get like something and then just hide and wait for a couple of people to fight near to you and then, you know, finish off the winner and then pick up the gear. But of course, I think now I'm more demonstrating the strength of the genre because, hey, I just came up with a playstyle that I would like maybe.
Yeah.
And, you know, other people might like doing it in another way.
Oh, this reminds me of old online games where people were complaining about camping, and then I would just go, no, it's not camping, it's a tactical ambush.
Yeah.
I like that.
Which would piss them off even more.
Yeah, you know, the building stuff in Fortnite sounds like it's mobile camping. So you basically go around and build your own camp.
And it's because of the circle mechanic. That's why I said that you need to be lucky, because if you happen to spawn where the circle happens to close in, and you decide for that game, well, I'm just gonna camp, and you get really lucky with your pickups. But I think that might be the reason why people at like my possible skill level still keep playing, because you want to get that win. And in that scenario, like that game allows for you to get lucky in a ridiculous way if you just keep playing. Yeah. And that's actually a point in its favor. Because it adds replayability. You're like, well, one of these games, what's going to happen is I'm going to get my crazy weapons from the first house I go to, and the circle is going to close around, I'm just going to camp there, you know, and then everybody else is just going to be killing each other off and weakening each other using resources, and I'm just going to sit there, and then I'm going to win.
Yeah, it still sounds valid.
Though I have to say that if I had to choose between PUBG and Fortnite, I would probably go with Fortnite, just because the games are so much quicker.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
With PUBG, you just have to. I mean, if you get lucky, you actually might even meet another player before someone snipes you from like 5 miles away.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole realism thing. Yeah, they are quite different, but that's what I mean with like how to rewind the conversation, or you know, close the loop in the conversation. I think the Call of Duty Battle Royale has potential to seize the spot of the realistic Battle Royale game, or realistic in you know, quotation marks, from PUBG, because they have so much experience, the devs of Call of Duty, in making this fast-paced, like kind of arcadey, realistic shooting action type of stuff, which I think is exactly what the genre needs.
I wonder if, I mean, Call of Duty isn't known for big maps, so I wonder if they're gonna go like, okay, so it's 20 people, sort of very small map, and it's more akin to a gun game than Battle Royale. They've done gun game before. So.
Oh yeah, gun game is where you like get random weapons and.
Yeah, when you kill someone, you get a better or another weapon, and then the first one to climb through the ladder of weapons wins. Yeah.
Or on the other hand, I would like it if it was like more like a city-based map with a lot of verticality, and then like maybe 50 people, but like horizontally much smaller map than PUBG or Fortnite, and then just give the players these mobility abilities. Like that could be really, really cool.
And if it has a lot of mobility, then I guess like meleeing would. I mean, of course, in Call of Duty, melee is a one-hit kill always. So I guess if that would be a thing in the Battle Royale also, then I guess meleeing and not giving a shit about any of the weapons would be a valid tactic.
Yeah, I think if they did something like that, that would be really... And then they could even do the stupid kill streak bullshit. Because in a Battle Royale, it's not that bad. Because it's such a hectic random thing anyway. So you have like this, skyscrapery, little town bits. And then you can even have like drones flying around, and like it would be really cool that you, for example, get a drone, but your character will be physically controlling it, so you can get backstabbed by a dude or whatever shots while you're doing it. So you have to find like a safe corner and then do it, and there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think that they could take the place of the like gritty, realistic looking battle royale, since PUBG definitely has a more realistic graphical look, and I really identify with that because I feel that lately I've been leaning more towards the kind of realistic graphics in games that I've been playing. For a very concrete example, like Street Fighter V has a kind of cartoony look. I don't really dig it that much. It's okay. I've grown accustomed to it, but I've never was so hyped up for it. But then compare that with Tekken 7, and that's more my kind of thing. I really like the way the characters are made in that game, and how all the graphical effects and post processing are made. So if I had to choose a battle royale game, I guess I would first try PUBG, because because you're looking at the graphics all the time, so. I might as well start there and then maybe go elsewhere.
I believe that Call of Duty Battle Royale might be the place for you to start, since at least like looking back at Treyarch, they are gonna probably go somewhere in between those two. Like it's gonna look sort of realistic, but it's gonna have some very quirky things in there and some crazy tech stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess like one quick thing worth mentioning is that of course Call of Duty is going to be more arcade direction most likely compared to PUBG. But what I think is a good point, or well, I'm not sure if it's a good point, but it's a point I would like to make that I've been thinking about, is that I feel that the DayZ angle, so to speak, the Arma angle of these battle royale games is a little bit of a dead end. Like all signs seem to point towards that it has to be arcade, it has to be quick. Like you cannot just do the you're gonna be crawling in grass for half an hour and then you get shot in the head or whatever. That has its place and its niche, but if you are gonna be like the new MOBA genre, basically, it's just far too niche.
It has to be like community based gaming. It has to be formed upon a group of people who really love that style. But then
again, you mean like the DayZ style? It does. And it cannot, like, you can't just hop into those games, and you really have to invest. Like, I think those are really cool, and I think there's gonna be attempts made there, and there's gonna be some games that are gonna be relatively popular. But I think the angle, the direction that the mainstream of that genre is gonna take, I think is gonna be the more Call of Duty, the more arcadey direction, because of just how those games tend to flow, and how whenever I talk to people or whenever I hear conversations, like even here today, you guys mentioned that Tommi mentioned, or whoever mentioned, they would like to play test Fortnite because the games are faster, and that's like a very common point, because the problem with PUBG is just you're wandering around, and it's not nowhere near as bad as say DayZ, but it's still it has that baggage that it's carrying around. That it's trying to have that, like, because I understand in a way the idea that there's so much tension, you're just walking around and like nothing is happening. You don't really get that in basically any game. You don't get that in a single player game. Like nobody makes a single player game. And I think that would be maybe, I'm not sure if it's realistic to how War really is. I would assume so, but it's definitely different than what any other game provides. But it just turns out it's not that entertaining for the majority audience. It's too.
What I really want is a Stalker battle royale.
Oh, Escape from Tarkov might have been that if their netcode wasn't.
Yeah, it would be like something that Tarkov. Does Tarkov have like the crazy like sci-fi magic, whatever paranormal elements of
No,
Stalker.
I think it's just that
Yeah.
very Eastern European
Yeah.
sort of not quite, but close to post-apocalyptic.
Because it would be really fun if they added the crazy stalker, like, phenomenons and like the anomalies they're called, yeah.
Anomalies,
yeah, stuff like that. Like a battle royale with that, where like maybe nobody wins, maybe everybody gets killed, and the whole thing like that it's gonna be like there's gonna be the way they could explain the circle is that there's gonna be like a relic or whatever appearing, at the center of the closing whatever thing,
Yeah.
and the first player to get that wins, or however you want to do it, or the last person standing still has to grab it, or however you want to do. But then you would have all these like hostile non-player charter things going around, that complicated. That could be absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
I've never heard of
something that
Escape from Tarkov. Were you about to say something about this game, Tommi?
I was just about to say that I think that what Ville just described there, it would be the next evolution of the battle royale, which in a way is also a devolution, since that
Yeah.
it sort of was a thing in
DayZ
already.
Yeah,
But
and
it was made so.
It's so weird that it hasn't really happened like anywhere. Like it feels like maybe it's one of those pipe dream things where it feels like like such an amazing thing on paper, but it's just impossible to actually get working for various maybe technical reasons, maybe game design, whatever. But to me, it seems like if you just do it right, like I think zombies that's wrong, because the idea of zombies is either you have a lot of them, which just becomes shoot a lot of zombies, and you don't have the tension of listening for other people shooting and stuff like necessarily, and like it's just a completely different game. It just becomes like kill a lot of zombies and then another player shoots you or whatever, or you have very few zombies, at which point they are just pointless. So but if you do something like stalkery, where you have very like singular entities that are super dangerous and that change the rules of the game around themselves or whatever, you do something like that, and then that could work.
Yeah.
Isn't like Hunt Showdown doing something of the sort?
Yeah, actually,
in a
Hunt
way?
Showdown seems really cool. I think it's smaller scale though. I think
Yeah,
you have
and-
like maybe 10 people on a map or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something like we started like PUBG started with like 100, right?
Yeah.
And Fortnite is also 100.
Yeah.
But it's a smaller map.
Yeah.
So I think these like this 100 is now for some reason a magic number that everyone goes for.
It's kind of like
or beyond.
Yeah, it's kind of like the identity of the genre, so to speak. And if you go any lower than that, I feel that it little bit adds to the stress. Like if you're just 1 out of 100 and you can just hop from game to game, and hope for that perfect luck and stuff. Like I think that's kind of like the core of the main, the wide audience appeal of the genre. But yeah, like I think Hunt the Showdown is going for a different direction, where it's more like the fact that players exist is not the main draw necessarily. Other players, it's more like adding to the tension, because you don't know what they're going to be doing. It's like it's a very different, like it could even be genre defining in itself, that it kind of like or a game like that could be, but it creates its own experience. Tarkov has a similar angle, stuff like I think we are seeing like a spin-off of the mainstream battle royale genre emerging here, and it's gonna be like less people, it's gonna have PvE elements, it could have some really crazy like even like dungeon master type of shit going on, where one player gets to control the enemies or something like that, and like really kind of like go to this more role-playing direction with it, so to speak, where other players are like just part of the world and like add fluff, so to speak.
Yeah, I would like to see a battle royale, or I guess battle royale game that has the like smaller amount of players, let's say like 30 to 50, but then there's lots of like NPC characters that are just cannon fodder, some that might be like around the danger level of another player, and then something completely beyond the danger levels of any other player, that if you want to kill, that you have to sort of band up with the other players to kill the big bad monster. and because I think with like Fortnite and PUBG, so like every enemy you meet is on the same level with you.
Yeah.
So you don't get that sort of creep killing thing that you get with MOBAs, and you don't feel like you are, I guess, getting more powerful.
Yeah, I think that's
when
the
game goes on.
I think that's the thing that you would get from the zombies and such. But I think the problem is that those games are, permadeath basically within a single instance of the game, whereas MOBAs are not. So if you add like too much of a creep killing segment, that is because it's already a bit of a problem in the MOBA genre is that they have a lot of downtime at the start of the game. You just have to farm. If you add that and then make it permadeath, it's just going to be more stressful. So it has to be then something where it's more like there's objectives that you have to reach, to win. And then maybe you do some like Highlander type of shit, where if you only another player can kill you, and even then they have to do it in a specific way, for example, and then the last one standing wins. Like, and then you have like amassing power. Like, hey, who owns the Highlander IP? Let's go. But that could really work, where you get more powerful, and if you duel another player, but you manage to damage them too much so that they will also die from blood loss or whatever, so they cannot finish you off by chopping off your head, then you are still in the game, and then you do like a little bit longer loop of say like half an hour or 45-minute games or whatever, and you have that MOBA build-up of like killing little things, and then it could work. And you could see like, okay, this guy's getting super powerful now, so everybody has to band up and like beat this guy somehow, and like it could have an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I think it would also be an interesting dynamic in this hypothetical game of ours, that sort of like what Ubisoft did with the Division and the Dark Zone there, where every player, by definition or like in the start, are on the same side, and then someone can go rogue, and then they sort of change sides, and so if you go rogue, then you have everyone else has the they can kill the other player without the fear of going rogue themselves. But
the problem with that system is though that requires longer loops probably, because it's otherwise like kind of like how does the pressure in, like what do you do in the beginning of the game, like when nobody's rogue, what is like how do you win? Because in Division you don't really have a win condition in the Dark Zone. It doesn't have like clear like I am the winner of the Dark Zone now.
But yeah, if we take this and put into the Stalker PUBG thing, so you're sort of looking for the artifacts or this sort of a way.
But then you have to really build it around like, because in the Division, like going rogue is not the like expected outcome, so to speak. It's a choice you can make, but like it kind of punishes you for that. But in this instance, it has to happen because there can only be one winner. So you have to little bit make it more like people are gonna backstab you, but like when is it gonna happen? Type of a thing.
Yeah. Maybe you could like form up dynamically form up teams within the one singular.
Yeah. It could be like then if you get the artifact as a group, then the reward
gets a little reward.
The reward gets split.
One,
So you can still decide at the very end to backstab people and stuff like that. Like,
exactly.
That could be really cool. If you do like Highlander meets Stalker Battle Royale, like what the fuck is this even going? I mean, it could work.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we have some pretty good game ideas, but we're also running out of time. So Highlander IP owners, give us a call, and we'll take it from there. And otherwise, thank you for this chat, guys. And
sure.
It's actually a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
About this really pretty hot topic in gaming right now. So it's pretty cool. For the rest of you guys,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, time to end this.
Yes.
So thanks for listening, and hear you next time.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.